Hello everybody, sorry for, I really dropped the ball there on this lesson. I confused myself because the music theory lesson was so long, and then I didn't really necessarily want to make you guys make you guys write songs just based on the music theory lesson. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend the lesson and then have you guys have a little bit of a break. So today we're going to talk about different forms and parts of a song. So any song, you build it with different parts. We just call these stanzas, or there are also different ways of breaking up the song. So most songs usually start with an introduction. The introduction is usually a kind of exposition. It will introduce a main theme of the song, or a feel for the song, or some sort of riff that a lot of times will come back later in the song, or at the end of the song, to make you feel like you've gone full circle. Sometimes it will be part of the chorus. And then the real exposition comes in the verse. So like in the first few chapters of a novel, usually you set the scene. You know, what are we talking about? What's going on here? Who are the characters? And eventually introducing the problem, or the main thrust of, okay, what is this song about? Why am I having to sing this song? You know. I woke up this morning at 6 a.m. It gives you an image, but that's generally bad exposition. And there are films and books that begin with the trope of I woke up this morning, but be careful with that, because it's very cliche, and a lot of times, unless you say things that are very specific and use specific images, it's going to be very boring to listen to. So then once you have the exposition, you're like, okay, so this is what we've got here. And then this is in a typical breakup of a song, then we'll have the pre-chorus. And the pre-chorus is like, and then, da-da-da, we've got a second movement of the music, and it builds up to the chorus. So that could be a positive or a negative. It depends on the song, whether or not the song is a song that is a song of conflictedness, or a song where the chorus resolves the conflict. So the pre-chorus builds up to that, heightens things a little bit, particularly musically, usually. And then the chorus, you have your main idea of the song. It's really important to have good choruses in your songs if you're writing songs that have choruses, because choruses are repeated. Some bands will repeat their chorus as much as 5 or 7 times in a song, and some worship artists will probably do it about 20 times, which is ridiculous, and I disagree with doing that, because if it's worth saying, it's worth saying once. But choruses are a device, they're a memory device, so because we repeat the chorus over and over again, that makes it easier to sing and easier to learn a new song. So that's the part that everybody should be able to sing this part, right? And so the chorus is your main idea. It's repeated over and over. So it should be the best lines in the song and the core of the song. Although the next part of the song that we often have is a bridge. Obviously you can have more verses built in there, and the verses will either continue the story or the movement. Obviously in poetry, sometimes the story is going to be, I did this, I did this, I did this, but then sometimes the story is going to be, I thought this, and then I began to realize this, and then I realized finally that, yeah, this is true. For example, and yeah, this is like what Terrence Malick does in his films. His stories aren't linear from point A to point B. His stories are linear from idea A to idea B. So then the bridge will often take the main idea a bit further, or resolve the main conflict, or it will just take the chorus like I said, take the main idea for it. It'll take the chorus and raise it one more. So, for example, in worship songs, a common thing to do in the chorus is take the core thing about God that we're talking about in the chorus, and then use bigger and more grandiose adjectives to describe him, to describe that part of him in the bridge. The bridge is usually higher sung, and it's usually the high point of the energy of the song, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a low point as well. And then we've got a tag or an outro, and the outro brings us back down to earth. If you want the song to have a resolve, you bring the volume a little bit back down, and then you just have it be kind of relaxing, and you let people think about what was said during the song while some nice music plays, and then you end it on the one chord, probably. But if you want the song to be unresolved, the tag could even, if there's a lot of conflict built up in the song or a lot of like tension, then the tag could be actually going louder and going big, and then just ending very suddenly. So there's a lot of different things you can do with these different parts of the song, and obviously any song you could use one or two of these things and not use the rest. You don't have to have a bridge, you don't have to have a pre-chorus, you don't have to have an intro. Sometimes the song starts right in on the words, sometimes the song starts right in on the chorus. So you can mix and match and change the order of these things. We do this a lot, especially in worship. When we're leading worship, because you don't want things to get old, and you don't want people to know, well, you want people to know what's coming, but you don't want them to get complacent, like, oh, we've heard this 1,000 times. A question about song forms. Why do we use repetition in songs? You mentioned the chorus is repeating. We use repetition, one, because it's a memory aid. So songs help us remember main ideas in ways that, they rhyme sometimes, they have rhythm at least, and that makes it easier to learn and remember these main ideas. And this was really important, particularly before people could read, before people had hymn books and stuff like that. To learn new songs, you'd have to memorize them. And so having repetition, and a lot of repetition, was really common. For example, African American spirituals often have call and response and a ton of repetition in them. Because these are songs that would be sung either in the fields or in the churches, where oftentimes they wouldn't have money for hymn books. The other reason that we have repetition in songs is that it emphasizes the main idea, the chorus. You got to be careful with this though, because just because you're repeating something doesn't mean it's important. A lot of pop songs will repeat these lines over and over again, and they'll get stuck in your head, and you'll be like, yeah. And then you'll be listening to the words and you're like, what? Or you'll just realize that they're using cliches, and they're repeating cliches because cliches are something that we find somewhat comfortable, but it's not good songwriting. So let's talk about different forms. So using verse, chorus, and all of this, let's say we would call like a verse an A, right? Or the first part of the song you play an A, right? And then if you had a second movement that was different, a different melody, then the first part, that would be a B, right? And you could have a C, D, as many letters as you wanted. But most songs don't ever go beyond 4 or 5 different melodical pieces. Like I said, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge. And maybe the intro will be different, but usually the intro repeats one of those other ones. So the very simplest form of song would be call and response. Call and response would be like when the Marines are running together and, I don't know what I've been told, I don't know what I've been told. And one person is calling out and the rest of the people are repeating the lines that he's saying. This is obviously a very basic form, and it works for learning new songs especially. I'll actually use a call and response form when I really want a group of people to sing along with me with a song that they've never heard before. So if I'm playing some of my songs, and the people aren't very musically inclined, then I'll use call and response even though the song isn't designed that way. But this is an interesting form. Another form would just be a basic repetition of one melody, A, right? And so this form with just repeating A, is what a lot of hymns use. So like, come thou fount of every blessing, right? Come thou fount of every blessing, to my heart to sing thy grace. I guess it sort of has an A and a B, but it depends on how you look at it, because each verse has the A and the B parts, and that's it. So, and this A, so you could see it as just being repeated A. Amazing Grace, definitely A. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound when we've been there 10,000 years. Yep. So many hymns are in this AA form, and it's fine. Here you don't have a repetition of words, you have a repetition of the melody. And so the repetition of the melody allows you to be able to sing the second and third and fourth verses, even though the words are completely different. This obviously works better when you have hymn books, right? Because then you can figure out the melody and then read the words along. So, but an AAA form is really good, especially if you're just trying to like make a list of this is what God has done, or if you're trying to tell a story of this is what God has done. You know, you can move forward through the different parts of the story with the same melody, so people don't feel lost, but you're not having to repeat the same things over and over again. Still recording? Yes. Okay. Then there's other forms that you can use, like you might add a B section in there. For example, blues often has a B where the melody changes, kind of a bridge. Like it'll have verse, and then it'll have like bridge basically. Where the music goes a little different, you might have some added syncopation, and then it goes back to the A to finish. You can have verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. And I've even seen songs, there are songs where this verse, chorus between the two, like, changes keys, changes things entirely. So, and then I've seen others where the verse and chorus have the exact same chords, and maybe even very similar melodies. So the variation between these can be really big or really small. Of course, the form that we talked about earlier, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, out, that would be A, B, A, B, C, B. Yeah. And so that's a really common form. You can also have forms where you start in one place and you go somewhere completely differently. For example, Reliant K has a couple songs that start out like really fast and with electric guitars, and then they go into a B section that's pianos and really slow. You could call it a bridge, but really it's a completely different, it almost sounds like a completely different song. But it's tied together thematically, and the music flows from one to the other, but the music is completely different. And I think this is a really interesting form, to go from that A, where you've got like one sort of song, to a B that's a different sort of song, that really reflects the emotional journey that you've gone on. And like I said, you can just you could even do A, B, C, where you start in one place, go to a second place, and then go to a third place entirely. And this would make sense, particularly if you're doing some sort of journey song, or not Journey the band, but like some sort of song where you start in one place and then you have the conflict and you have the resolution or something new at the end. So anyway, obviously you can mix up forms in any way you want. You can, you can do anything you want with this. You can put an A section that never repeats, and then have, a chorus that repeats, but then have the second verse be nothing like the first verse. There are a lot of different things you can do with these forms, but the important thing is just realize that all songs have forms, and just learn to recognize them. So when you're listening to a song, go, okay, what's going on here? What's the form that's being used? And you don't have to analyze all the time. I know that we're poets. We don't want to analyze all the time. But when you sit down, especially if you're going to play a song, you do want to analyze it. And you want to say, okay, this is how the original people did it. Is this the way I want to do it? Because you do need to make a song your own if you're leading worship with it. And I don't mean you need to change the words, although I'll do that sometimes. But what I mean is just playing it in such a way that you will follow the emotional ups and downs of the song. And sometimes that's even while you're playing. If you end in one place and the energy's really high, maybe you want to do the chorus again. Or if you've brought the energy low already, maybe you want to end it before you thought you did. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was, so we've got the A's and B's with different melodies, and then you've got the forms of verse and chorus and stuff like that. And then you've also got dynamics. So if you've taken any classical music, this is like forte piano, yeah? That's what piano is, like really quiet, really soft. And then forte is really loud. And most songs, particularly in this day and age, generally go from about here to here. They don't have a huge difference between their soft and their loud. Particularly with producing, even if the end is really like dun dun dun, the actual sound won't be significantly louder. Classical music always wrecks my computer because it has really soft and really loud, and my speakers don't know what to do with it. But at any rate, a song should have a general direction based on the dynamics as well. So, for example, when you're planning to play a song with a group of people, you should communicate to them, okay, we're doing verse, chorus, bridge, and then out. We want the first verse to be really quiet, the second verse to be a little louder but still quiet, the first chorus to be loud but not so loud, the second chorus to be everything out, the bridge will do quiet, will be coming down, so it'll start loud and throughout the bridge we'll build down to the end. Every song should have a general direction and emotional journey, and it can be like this, that's pretty common, where you start low and then you're going up and up and up. It can be more linear, where you're just building through an entire portion, especially with bridges and pre-choruses. You tend to build straight through them, going louder and louder and louder as you go. But the direction could be different. You could have a song that starts really loud, but then gets quiet. Or you can have a song that starts really quiet and then goes loud. Or you can have songs that jump around and go loud, quiet, loud, depending on where you're at. If the bridge is a moment of realization where you're like, wow, I messed up. Reliant K's I So Hate Consequences. That's probably better to have it quiet, And that could be the quietest moment in the song, and it could get loud after that, again, or not, depending on how you want to end the song. So, the most important thing with dynamics is you want to emphasize the most important parts of the song, and you can emphasize something either by whispering and being quiet, or by being loud and really expressing all the emotion that you have inside of it, right? So emphasis can be quiet or loud, but you want to emphasize the most important parts of the song, and you also want to have movement throughout the song. If your chorus sounds exactly the same every time, you're doing something wrong. It's boring, and you don't have any sort of journey, any sort of motion. Now, obviously, I don't mean you should change the melody every time, and sometimes, even though I love changing the melody on the last chorus to, go up, push up into a harmony or something like that, if you're leading worship for a big group, you can't always do that because you lose